plan is to go in and capture the Avatar once and for all.
So no plan?
I'm working on it, Uncle.
In Avatar, The Last Airbender, the cosmic event known as Sozin's Comet plays an extremely crucial role. It's the reason why firebenders are able to boost their powers to an incredible level and make the Fire Nation the most powerful of all four. So, remember the last time Sozin's Comet visited? It was a disaster. The Fire Nation used its power to start a war and nearly wiped out the air nomads, leaving our hero Aang as the sole survivor. The urgency to master all four bending arts before the comet's return fuels the entire journey in the original series. However, Netflix's live-action adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender is taking a different path. They will remove Sozin's Comet. So, what would happen to the story if this extremely crucial element of the series was removed? Does it spell an M. Night Shyamalan disaster? Well, in this video, we're going to talk about why removing Sozin's Comet is the worst mistake Netflix can make. Yet at the same time, it's inevitable. And if you stay tuned until the end, we have exclusive reactions from lucky people who were invited to the Netflix premiere of ATLA on February 15th. So, first, let's talk about why Netflix removed the most important element of ATLA. Well, this news comes straight from Albert Kim, the showrunner, who shared with Entertainment Weekly that the comet's absence is a creative choice, saying, "All 3 seasons of the animated series essentially take place in the course of 1 calendar year. There was no way we could do that, so we had to design this first season, especially to accommodate the possibility of some time elapsing between the first and the second season." According to Kim, replicating the animated series' timeline, where all 3 seasons happen within 1 year, just wasn't feasible for the live-action adaptation. So, this decision means the show will lose its original ticking clock. Kim explains that removing Sozin's Comet allows for more flexibility with the timeline between seasons, especially considering the ages of the actors, saying, "The comet was their ticking clock. We removed that particular ticking clock from our show for now because we couldn't know exactly how old our actors would be for the subsequent seasons." Well, this dilemma isn't new. Remember Stranger Things Season 4? The young cast looked much older than their high school characters. Kim is facing a similar issue. How can Aang and friends look the same over several seasons when Sozin's Comet is supposed to return in a year? Another example is Harry Potter, played by Daniel Radcliffe. See, most boys undergo some massive growth at Gordon's age. Just look at how much Daniel Radcliffe grew between the first Harry Potter film and the third one. Furthermore, M. Night Shyamalan, who directed the 2010 movie adaptation, encountered this dilemma too. But instead of removing the Sozin's Comet, he decided to be a time bender and pushed its return back by 3 years. Shyamalan knew some things were too central to the story to change, even if he altered other details. On the other hand, Kim's decision has stirred the pot, but it's not all set in stone. He also said there's a possibility that they will bring Sozin's Comet into the next seasons of ATLA. Why dropping Sozin's Comet is a huge mistake. Now, let's think about what happens if the comet is out of the picture. Suddenly, Aang's training doesn't seem so urgent. He's got all the time he needs, right? But that's not the only issue. Considering the story's background, the Fire Nation became a massive threat because of the power boost they got from Sozin's Comet. Without it, are we supposed to believe that they just outbended everyone else? That change would mess with the whole history of the Avatar world, and not in a good way. It sort of suggests the air nomads were taken down too easily, which doesn't do justice to their legacy. And there's another big point here. We know that Fire Lord Ozai is the ultimate villain, the final boss that Aang has to defeat. So Ozai being extremely powerful makes sense because of the comet's power. But without that extra boost, will Ozai still feel the massive threat he's supposed to be if Aang has already mastered the 4 elements? So while the idea of tweaking the story for the live-action series might sound interesting, dropping Sozin's Comet could take away a lot of what makes Avatar so exciting. Does Netflix change some of the characters' attitudes in Avatar: The Last Airbender? You might have heard some chatter about some changes to characters and their attitudes, especially regarding Sokka. Fans were worried when they heard Sokka's sexiest views might be softened for the Netflix adaptation. This concern isn't just about keeping the characters accurate for accuracy's sake. It's about how characters like Sokka and Katara grow and change over time. Their struggles and how they overcome them, including dealing with sexism, are key parts of the story. So now enter Paku, Katara's waterbending master. See, Paku isn't exactly the friendliest guy at first, especially toward women wanting to learn waterbending.
You are an excellent waterbender.
But you still won't teach me, will you?
No.
This trait of his, as surprising as it may sound, is vital. It challenges Katara, propelling her story forward and highlighting her strength and determination. And the actor playing Paku, Abo Martinez, dropped some interesting info in a now-deleted comment on a Reddit post, where a fan expressed concerns over changing Paku's character for the live-action series. Martinez responded saying, "Might not be wise to expand a comment somebody made and broadcast it as an absolute. I played the dude, and without his bias, there is literally no character. Whole world in waiting, about to be pleasantly surprised." Meaning Paku's original, biased nature is intact because that's what gives his character depth. Without it, Paku wouldn't be Paku. And what Martinez means when he says, "about to be pleasantly surprised," is that the essence of Paku's character and the important lessons that come from his interactions with Katara will remain an important part of the story. Furthermore, other than being a barrier for Katara to overcome, Paku's role is also about his own growth.
You are an excellent waterbender.
But you still won't teach me, will you?
No.
Remember, Avatar: The Last Airbender is well known for its character development. Well, Paku's journey from a rigid traditionalist to someone who respects and appreciates Katara's skills and determination is a very important moment. Early reviews of Netflix's Avatar: The Last Airbender. On February 15th, the embargo for social media reactions was lifted, and the series got a mix of responses. The full series review embargo will not be available in public until the release day on February 22nd. But here are some of the early reactions from people who were lucky enough to watch the Netflix live-action adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Leading with enthusiasm, the YouTuber, The Avatarist, shared his thoughts saying, "Netflix's Avatar is peak cinema. 10 out of 10 for the first episode. I will say this, it's not a one-on-one adaptation, which is good. The show is completely faithful in spirit to the original. It looks like Avatar. It feels like Avatar. It is Avatar." Mike Thomas from Collider brings in some major positivity by saying, "The first episode of Netflix's #Avatar: The Last Airbender is fantastic. From the opening scene, you realize that this is far better than the 2010 film. The fights are great, but the standouts are the actors. These kids feel like Team Avatar, a fun new take on a timeless classic." Caleb Williams of Night Edge Media didn't hold back with his thoughts, saying, "Netflix's #Avatar: The Last Airbender is everything you hope. The show literally shits all over the movie in the very first 30 seconds. While I do have some minor issues with the writing/constant exposition, Ian Ousley is just a STAR. But, like I said before, some will love it, and some simply can't. I'm really sorry, but I didn't enjoy Avatar: The Last Airbender much at all. Looks beautiful, but isn't a patch on the original cartoon, even if it is just inspired by. Slightly nervous to share my full review next week now. Ha ha ha." Christopher Angelo Gallardo from Covered Geekly added, "I've watched the first episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and it's off to a bad start. The life and color that was once there is now non-existent in this live-action adaptation. Mischaracterization is present, and VFX looks unfinished when not focused on the bending." And lastly, Raphael Motomayor, the writer for IGN, criticized, "I am finally allowed to say that the first episode of #Avatar: The Last Airbender is a huge letdown. Sure, the bending looks great, and generally the visuals are solid, but this is a mixed bag of an adaptation. Too much exposition, poor writing, and horrible pacing. Dallas Liu rules, though." Well, whatever they say, we just need to wait for its premiere on February 22nd and see for ourselves. We all have different standards, so seeing is believing. And to believe is to see the last season of Stranger Things. Because, come on, if you are a fan of Stranger Things, you've probably been dreaming about Season 5. And that's why you don't want to miss all the hottest and juiciest details about the upcoming season. And I promise you that it will hit our screens sooner than you think. So grab your waffle and click this video right here to learn more.